I think the seriousness, the number speaks for itself. We are getting more than 2 lakh cases per day, and there's reports of people not able to get the beds, even in wards, let even the ICU. There's acute shortage of oxygen at most of the places. People are not able to procure the basic medications for COVID-19 like remdesivir, ivermectin, and the list is ongoing. One of the reasons probably being the vaccine, that people have thought that the vaccines have come, so now we are safe. And there are so many instances where people have taken one shot of vaccine and they are thinking that I have taken vaccine now, I don't need to bother actually. But it's not the case actually. Possible if we don't adhere to strict norms now, definitely worst is to come. So first dose is just to prep your body. After the second dose, your immunity start to develop, antibodies start to generate, and it takes around 2 to 3 weeks even after that to generate the antibodies. And the efficacy of Covaxin per se, when you take it after 1 month, is just around 70%. So, but the lockdown is definitely a need of ours, and I don't know how, but the problem is that for me it is easy to say, but how that economy survives and what are the lot of implications are there with the lockdown, which I cannot perceive, or I should not be commenting on it. I am facing a severe, huge crisis of bed. Every day I got at least 10, 15 calls. I want bed, I want bed. People in a hospital, they stand in front of me with folded hands. You are God, you can only give me bed, you are there. I mean, and I feel really ashamed, yeah. I mean, that I am not able to, cater to these people.
Welcome viewers, this is Alankar Srivastav. This is Middle Class Hub, India's first platform exclusively for the middle class. Viewers, we are in a situation right now. The country is going through a huge surge in COVID cases, and we have been getting a lot of queries from your end regarding there are a lot of questions, a lot of misinformations floating around. So we have with us someone from the medical fraternity, Dr. Amitav Banka. He is consultant HOD, respiratory and COVID unit, Asian Hospital Patna, City of Asian Hospitals Faridabad, and he was also actively involved with COVID management in super specialty max hospitals. So we'll speak to him and try to get a sense where we stand, where we went, and try to see things from the perspective of someone who is right there at the forefront in the battle against COVID. Welcome, Dr. Amitav Banka, to Middle Class Hub, India's first platform exclusively for the middle class.
Thank you, Alankar.
Dr. Banka, the first question, the format is of a conversation. We'll have a conversation, but I'll let you do more of the speaking because that's what viewers want. So we have a lot of queries from viewers. So to start with, how serious is this second wave of coronavirus that we are with right now?
Well, I think the seriousness, the number speaks for itself. We are getting more than 2 lakh cases per day, and there's reports of people not able to get the beds, even in wards, let even the ICU. There's acute shortage of oxygen at most of the places. People are not able to procure the basic medications for COVID-19, like remdesivir, ivermectin, and the list is ongoing. So this is itself speaks that how serious is this condition actually. I mean, I don't need to explain in any words actually. I mean, every day in news we are seeing and listening that how many patients are dying. Even leave alone the other patients, you will be hearing in your near ones, dear ones, relatives. Everybody, the whole family is getting positive. Somebody is dying. So it's really bad situation right now. Yeah.
So, Doctor, what's your view on that? Because a lot of people are of the view that Maybe it's a case of lowering our guard too early, too soon. Is this what led to this huge surge in COVID cases? Is it that we all kind of complacent or a COVID fatigue that what to talk about? So that is what that is leading to this huge surge in the number of cases we are seeing.
What you are saying is one of the things that, okay, COVID fatigue, that's a good word actually to start with, that people have got tired of being isolated and being, staying at home and they are going out. That is fine. Going out is not an issue, but going out with precaution is something which you should follow actually. We are not saying that you should not have gone out. But going out without mask, without any precaution, just roaming without mask, and not bothering at all is a problem. Yes, we have lowered our guard. One of the reason probably being the vaccine. That people have thought that the vaccines have come, so now we are safe. And there are so many instances where people have taken one shot of vaccine and they think that I have taken vaccine now, I don't need to bother actually. But it's not the case actually. Obviously, most of the people are not aware that they have to take both the vaccines, and even after taking both the vaccines, only after a month or so you will develop an immunity. So, yes, we are taking it lightly. We have, it is always like this, history has told us that first wave, after first wave, when you have a lockdown and everything, once the lockdown is over, the second wave is always more serious and more dangerous. So that is what is happening right now also.
So is it that the worst is yet to come? Can we take a guess?
Possible. It is quite possible if we don't adhere to strict norms now, definitely worst is to come.
So I think, according to you, the major factor which has led to this huge surge in COVID cases is people not following COVID appropriate behavior, not following the guidelines.
Definitely.
And you made a very pertinent observation that since the vaccines came, a lot of people thought that now we are safe, even when we get first dose. Can you explain to our viewers how exactly this vaccination works? If we talk about Covaxin and or Covishield doses, so when the exact immunity starts building up?
I mean, it is usually after 2 or 3 weeks of the second dose of vaccination. So, first dose is just to prep your body. After the second dose, your immunity start to develop, antibodies start to generate. And it takes around 2 to 3 weeks even after that to generate the antibodies. And the efficacy of Covaxin per se, when you take it after 1 month, is just around 70%. So even 30% will not develop the immunity. Only 70% of the people will develop immunity. So that's why the newer researchers have shown that if you delay Covishield to 2 months, the efficacy becomes 81%. And if you make it 3 months, it increases, the efficacy increases even more. Now, problem was logistically that government had to vaccinate everyone. So once they come, that 1 month apart status was there initially. That after 1 month, everybody has to be given second dose. So at least we have, logistic issues can be handled. But government has also realized the same, and now they have followed up with the guideline to 6 to 8 weeks. Covaxin still has to be taken at 1 month apart. Covaxin dose does not have to be delayed. What people need to understand, however, Covaxin is not that easily available as Covishield is. So few people are getting Covaxin. Not many people. Most of them are getting Covishield.
Where have we exactly went wrong if we talk about the government? Do you think the imposition of lockdown, that's the need of the hour right now? Do you think lockdown should be imposed?
The problem is that we have a country where we don't do anything until it's strictly imposed or strictly put on us. Like for simple example is helmet. We don't wear helmet. The government has to make a law that if you don't wear helmet, you'll be imposed fine. Now, these are basic things here. I mean, we can't blame government for everything. You are roaming around without the mask, without any proper uh, precaution, without any precaution, and you are saying that the government is at fault. No, yeah, I mean, we have to behave responsibly. If we don't, I mean, there's no point. Any government cannot do anything here. Yes, but the lockdown is definitely a need of ours, and I don't know how, but the problem is that for me it is easy to say, but how that economy survives and what are the like lot of implications are there with the lockdown, which I cannot, perceive, or I should not be commenting on it. But definitely, lockdown is the need of hour if we continue to go on like this.
That's the problem which we are seeing, I mean, and even leaders, they should lead by example. When you are gathering crowds of thousands, in election rallies while campaigning, and where people are not following, of course, they can't follow in that much crowd. That's why it's very important right now to avoid any such gathering. And as you rightly mentioned, we as a country, unless and until it's strictly enforced, people don't follow. And we know a lot of my acquaintance from the medical fraternity, they tell me that the medical fraternity itself is so stressed out. I personally know a lot of doctors, they have not visited their home for months together. So as a doctor, what would be your message to people who are not following the guidelines, as in not wearing masks, not maintaining proper distance? What as a doctor you would tell them?
Yeah, actually, if illiterate person does that, no, it is easier. But okay, he is not, educated, and you should teach him or make him learn. But problem is, even educated people are not doing that. So I call them educated idiots. Uh, and nobody can teach them anything here because day and night it has been told in media, news, radio, print media, everywhere it is there. And if they can't understand this, what as a doctor I can say? But the problem is, I am facing a severe, huge crisis of bed. Every day I got at least 10, 15 calls. I want bed, I want bed. People in a hospital, they stand in front of me with folded hands. You are God. You can only give me bed. You are there. I mean, and it's I feel really ashamed, yeah. I mean, that I am not able to cater to these people, and it's really depressing for us. Definitely. I mean, but there's limitation for us also, yeah. I mean, whatever best we can do, we are doing. This disease is not understood by many. Even we as a doctor, we don't know what we are doing actually most of the time. Whatever small knowledge we have about the disease, we are trying to do that. But how things will progress, nobody knows. So the only way is to stop the disease by breaking the transmission. We don't have that much medical facility. We don't have any treatment for this disease. As per se that okay, if we give this, if you have a malaria, you can give anti-malarial. If you have TB, you can give anti-TB tuberculosis. But we don't have any anti-COVID drug yet. So people has to understand that we have to break the chain of transmission. That only can be done if we follow basic protocol, basic precautions, which has been told repeatedly to everyone, and nobody is bothered. I don't know. Still, after so many of cases, still people are same.
I can understand.
So I don't know. I don't know what I can say to anybody. I can do for anybody. Right now, our situation is like, okay, whatever we can do, we are doing. Rest is up to God.
You rightly mentioned that this is unprecedented. I mean, there are no standard operating procedures, like in place for other diseases. So it's like an evolving situation. Even the doctors, the researchers, they are, as the situation is evolving, they are coming out with new, methodology to tackle the disease. But it's indeed in the hands of the people. If unless and until everybody does their bit, the doctors alone can't handle. And moreover, even pre-COVID era, we all know that the healthcare facility, the public healthcare facility in our country leaves a lot to be desired. Uh, Even
Yeah.
normal days, forget about corona pandemic. There have been instances, we have covered those stories that people, it's very difficult to get a bed. It's very difficult to get an appointment. Now, recently I was told that India's biggest hospital, AIMS Delhi, they have suspended all surgeries due to this surge in COVID cases. And even many private hospitals have been instructed by the governments to do so. So the thing is, of course, Corona is a big crisis, but our health infrastructure is also not in proper shape. And one criticism that the government also must take is that 1 year time was there, 1 year period. Now, when you see stories of not enough oxygen cylinders available, people dying because of lack of oxygen, the black marketing of drugs are happening. So these things sometimes it speaks reflects very poorly on our preparedness also, isn't it?
Ankar, you must be aware what is our population size. Do you really think we will be able to cater to such big population if all of them get sick on day one?
That's true.
Is it practical for any country to have such facility? I mean, we don't bother about people around us, and we start blaming the infrastructure. Yes, infrastructure is not good. I understand. Whatever government can do is trying to do. Okay, it's not that. I mean, yeah, but you see the number of cases. Literally, you see 2,60,000 in one day, and every day these lakhs are adding, right?
Yes, yes.
So, how much and how far can we go? Every hospital is admitting without even facility they are admitting, but there's limit to everything. Yeah?
No, no, we totally understand and appreciate and acknowledge the kind of pressure under which the entire medical fraternity is working with lack of resources also. I'll just say that because that's a reality of our country, no doubt about that. And in such tough situations, handling influx of patients, hordes of patients coming and as you rightly said, with folded hands requesting you for a bed. So as a doctor, I can, what you would be feeling, I can only imagine. So it's indeed a tough situation out there. But we know that what are the practical solutions? So if we talk about that, uh, that's true that the way the numbers are going, no matter how much infrastructure scale up you do, and these are long-term measures. You can't, build a hospital in a matter of weeks. You can't do that. Infrastructure building, it's a long-term measure. Now we are in the middle of a crisis. Here, I want you to clear some doubts about this Remdesivir. Remdesivir black marketing, we have been getting a lot of queries and people are shelling out about 10,000 rupees for one tab. So, is it that crucial in saving lives for all COVID patients? Can you just clarify on that?
No, it's an injection first of all, and even 30,000, 30, it has the cost of some black marketing has gone up to lakhs per vial. This is only antiviral available actually, and when given in early stages, it do help the patient. So the problem with us is that we don't have anything to give, and there's only one medication for whatever benefit it may give or may not give. So we have to give this to at least whoever needs this. Correct. So that's why there's a huge demand because we don't have any other medication. So what one medication we know can benefit the patient, I should give it to the patient, right?
Yes.
That benefit doubt I have to give it to the patient actually. We now suddenly there are 2 lakh patients, everybody needing 6 vials of remdesivir. So we need 12 lakhs vials of remdesivir right now. So how is it possible?
Mm.
So yes, there's a huge shortage. We did get a daily call. Everybody asking remdesivir, remdesivir. I'm not able to give my patients remdesivir. And yes, we are prescribing it. I'm saying everybody, every doctor is prescribing it because this is the only thing per se called as antiviral for COVID treatment. So it's not that everybody gets benefit out of it, but yes, people do get benefit out of it. So we have to give it.
Is it for like mild symptomatic patients also, or those who are severely affected?
See, actually, the guideline what the Americans and see, we don't have any research facilities in India. We follow whatever guidelines has been made by Western countries. So yes, they have told us that it is most useful in mild cases. But since we have shortage of remdesivir, so we have to prioritize patient, right? So we are giving to those who are going from mild to going to severe or moderate cases. So we are prioritizing to those patients first because mild patient may not need any treatment per se. They might get better without any treatment. But for moderate or severe cases, we need to have some hope for them, and we need to give some benefit to them, some benefit of doubt to them. So we are using for them. And yes, definitely, if you give it in mild cases, it has the maximum benefit, and as early as it is given, it gives maximum benefit. Like within first 5 days, it has the best benefit.
So I think that very well explains the reason behind this huge demand for remdesivir and also the black marketing that's happening after that. A big concern riding on the minds of everyone. I mean, that's the only thing we have been talking since last year and a half. That's about coronavirus, its symptoms, what to do, what not to do. And I can tell you, we have got lot many queries from our viewers. So I'll very quickly run some questions, and I'll like you to answer some of them for our viewers, for the benefit of our viewers. Because, in this age of, as one very prominent doctor put it, in this age of Dr. Google and Mr. WhatsApp, a lot of misinformation also is happening. So that makes this conversation insightful for viewers who are really battling, the families who have been destroyed because of all this, the battle with COVID. So now the first the query that we often get is, having hot water, does it help in preventing COVID-19?
No. Once the virus enters the cell, your hot water is not going to enter the cell and kill the virus. Okay, it can only harm your throat if you are using a very hot water or your skin. It is not going to affect the virus at all. So, but people are still doing gargles and all this, and we don't say no because that's what the WhatsApp University and Google Baba has told them, and they are not going to listen to us.
And this taking
they feel those are more authentic.
And inhaling steam, does that help in any way for people who are
steam helps in clearing the mucus, clearing your throat, airway clear. So if you have some congestion, it will help it, but it's not going to help per se in COVID. It will decrease your COVID infection or remove your COVID infection. Symptomatically, it will help you if you have congestion, if you have secretions in your nose or throat, it will help you. Yes.
And after taking this first dose of vaccine, does symptoms like body ache, mild fever, or loose motion, are these normal? Are these to be considered normal?
Yeah. Most common symptom is fever, pain at the injection site, body ache, giddiness. These are quite common, and they usually resolve on their own by 4 or 5 days. Most of them resolve on their own by 4 or 5 days. There's very few reports of any probably severe side effects, if any is there.
Now, just now we received a question from one of our viewers. What they are saying is, if suppose there are 4 members in a family and all 4 of them are COVID positive, then how do they take care of each other if they are advised home isolation? Because everybody is in.
They can all live together, take care of each other. That's the best scenario actually. If 2 are positive, 2 are negative, then it's a problem actually. When all are positive, it's the best situation actually.
Okay. But still you need to wear masks, like when all say 4.
Once everybody is positive in the house, you don't need to. But yeah, if anybody is coming inside the house, then you should tell him to wear a mask. if anybody is going outside, which one should not, then again he should wear a mask. Definitely.
And is it compulsory to wear PPE kits by a person who is attending a COVID patient in the house? Suppose somebody in the family get infected, I am not. Do I need to wear a PPE kit?
See, if you are in close contact, you should, because once you get infected, you will also be going to give to other people actually, because you might not even know that you have COVID for first 4 5 days, or till any symptoms comes. It may occur in between 0 to 14 any day. So definitely you need to take precaution. Obviously, it is practically not possible for everyone to wear PPE and keep wearing it for 24 hours, because it's very cumbersome to wear PPE. It is not at all a good feeling to wear a PPE for a long time. When I go to round, I wear it and I sweat like anything. When I come out of my PP, I'm all wet from top to bottom, and sweat is pouring like anything inside the PP. And most of the time, I can't see what is happening in front of me. Sometimes situation goes like this. But yes, we have, because since I be seeing 40, 50 patients at a time, so for my precaution also I have to wear the PP. Uh, but if ideally you should, but practically I don't know if it is feasible for everyone or not. I don't know.
Doctor, one viewer is asking, how does it take for lungs to recover from COVID-19 infection? Can lungs ever get back to normal
There,
condition?
there is no straightforward answer to this question, because nobody knows how long it takes. Because once you get affected by COVID, if you develop pneumonia from COVID, it can take months to recover. But mostly we have found that people suffering from COVID, at least from the first strain, what we had seen last year, they all usually recover. Those who have not expired, I mean to say, at least to have prolonged their disease, they may have prolonged disease, but most of them have recovered. Even we have repeated CT after 3 or 6 months, so they have shown that there's a decrease in the intensity, and many of them have shown resolution of the opacities in the CT scan. So it was a reversible disease per se, what we have seen in first strain. Now this strain we have to see, because this is just a new thing, so
One
we
thing
don't know.
people are asking and they're literally confused about is, can somebody have COVID and no fever at all? Is it possible? Yeah,
Definitely
I'll
possible.
take it one step ahead and I'll ask you to elaborate between symptomatic and asymptomatic patients. What are the symptoms?
See,
Please go ahead.
patient may not have any symptom at all and may have COVID, like children's. Children's may not have any symptom, but they will be silent carrier. They can harbor COVID and they can spread COVID to everyone, and we may not know even that they have COVID. Now symptoms, there's a wide range of symptoms. There's no one specific symptom. If you have cough, fever, body ache, uh, this was about this loose stools. Now this COVID, this time we are seeing even different symptoms which we were not seeing in first time, like nasal symptoms. First time last year, nasal symptoms was not present, like running nose or nasal discharges were not present in the patient. Now this time, even they are, we are seeing that patient are having running noses also. So there's a lot of variation in symptoms. So if you have any kind of symptom like fever, body ache, or any symptom which is something you find new, you need to see the doctor, get yourself checked, get into isolation.
And how deadly is this second wave of coronavirus for children? Because a lot of parents are calling us and asking us this. Because this time we are seeing a lot many children getting infected by this virus.
Not heard of any casualty in children yet, but yes, they are getting affected. But I don't think it's deadly for children. But yes, it's deadly for adults. This time we are seeing a lot of young adults actually, lot of young adults, 20 years, 30 years, and they are getting severely ill.
Despite having no comorbidities, still they are getting.
Despite having no comorbidities. Despite having no comorbidities.
And what explains that? Is that the mutations, the mutations in the virus? That's the reason behind it.
Could be exposure. Like they might be more reckless. The young generation is more reckless. Could be more reckless, getting more viral load, more infection of load. You can more infectious viral load. It could be any reason here now because we are seeing a lot of, and I've lost 2 3 patients, young patients, and it was very painful to see them dying.
Now, another thing that many people are confused about, they read a lot of stuff on internet, like what is the normal oxygen level for a normal healthy person and also for those who are suffering from asthma?
Asthmatic patient usually does not have fall in oxygen level. Okay, if there's a fall in oxygen level in asthmatic patient, that is a very bad sign. So they have the asthmatic patient and the normal patient tend to have the normal same oxygen level, which is around 98 to 99. Anything could be there. For COVID, what the guideline says is the cutoff is 94. Above 94, anything is mild. From 94 to 90, it is moderate, and less than 90, it is severe. That's how we classify the COVID.
So anything above 95 shouldn't be a matter of concern, isn't it?
Shouldn't be a matter of concern.
Okay. Any particular, suggestions from your side to people who are having chronic, say, breathing issues or asthma or lung disease? What extra precaution do they need to take?
First, you have to take precautions of COVID. You have to wear masks. You have to have sanitization, basic, safeguard protocol. Secondly, don't stop your medication. Whatever you are taking, inhalers, oral medication. Inhalers are the safest drug available in whole world. So, asthmatic patient definitely should continue the inhalers. In fact, should be on inhalers than any other oral treatment actually. So, continue your medication. See the doctor at first sign of any worsening. Don't wait in the home that okay, there a lot of COVID is going on. I will wait till my symptoms get more. I can manage. No, you can't manage. Once you get severe, nobody can manage. So we have to stop everything at mild, not at severe.
Like, many people, this is on a personal note from my side, as in, it's being told that like I have this habit of washing my hands even before this COVID struck. I have this, you can call it an OCD. I have of frequently washing my hands. And I, even before COVID, struck the humanity, I was having this habit that if I'm out, I won't take my hand onto my face. So that's my like inherent in my DNA. I just can't do that even before COVID. So what I want to understand from you is that one thing which really safeguards you if you don't touch your face from your hands when you are out?
No, definitely. That is the one of the most basic principle in safeguarding yourself. And washing hands or use of sanitizer is must nowadays. Whenever you touch any surface which you might feel is infected, you should do that. Especially when you are traveling in a lift, going to a restaurant, or going to a public place where, or even a staircase, the railings you should not touch actually. These were basic protocols. Before also we used to tell, don't touch the railings because you don't know how many people have touched it or who has spitted over there, who has done what to that. So these are basic things we need to follow strictly actually. Before we used to be lax about it, casual about it, but now we have to follow it strictly.
Now that we are all, we have been provided with all sorts of guidelines, instructions to behave in a certain way, follow all the norms and display COVID appropriate behavior. Still, this thing comes to my mind. We are mostly, it's a remote kind of working now. Where we are meetings are that also happening remotely. But suppose if I meet someone and the person is COVID positive, he has recovered. And if I just have a handshake with that person, handshake, but after that, I properly wash my hands and that's it. I don't take my hand onto my face or anywhere else. After the handshake, I just use proper sanitizer, Dettol hand wash, and I do that. So, will I still be, immune to this coronavirus, or will there be a danger of me also getting infected?
No, ideally you should not. Once you are, but you forgot to mention the mask actually. Both have to wear the mask also.
Okay.
If you're not wearing mask,
Yes,
then there's a bigger risk than
that's
handshaking.
that's a bigger risk. Yeah. So mask is something
Yeah,
that is not going away. Corona, we have to learn to live with it. This is what the message is, isn't it?
yeah. See, I have asthma. I have obstructive sleep apnea, and I wear two masks every day when I go to hospital. I don't need to wear two masks, but I wear it for some reasons, some technical reasons.
Hmm.
And I wear PPE also, where I wear three masks, have face shield in front of me, and I'm covered every from. Still, I'm able to manage. But I have seen so many young people just saying that, oh, I can't wear mask. I feel breathless when I wear it. This all, I don't know from where it comes actually. This is all, I don't shouldn't use this word, but this is all.
They just need to look at the doctors who have been working day in,
Yeah,
nurses.
they have the burden. That's what I'm saying. The young people are getting more affected because for them it's more of a state fashion statement not to wear mask actually.
Hmm.
They have to learn to wear mask actually. If they start wearing mask, they'll get used to it. Everybody feels suffocated when you wear mask for some time.
Hmm.
But if you wear it for some time, you'll get used to it. Everybody gets it used to it, and we have to get used to it.
I mean, and it's like, you get used to wearing a mask or better than get used to being on a ventilator. So the choice is before
Yeah, choice is
everyone,
yours. Yeah,
right?
definitely.
So wearing a mask is always
And
a,
the thing is that most of us will come out with mild symptoms, so we don't feel the heat and intensity of COVID actually, what COVID is actually. So that's why those who are getting COVID also, no, they are very, kuch nahi hota, it's nothing, yaar, I had COVID. See, I am there standing, well, nothing happened to me, right? So that attitude also is very problematic actually.
yeah, it is, it is. And I think that is also leading to a lot of problems that we are seeing right now. A casual attitude, a very casual approach,
Hmm.
not like as you rightly said, a very reluctance to wear a basic thing like a mask. They just
Basically,
look around, just have a look at hospitals, see the entire medical fraternity, right from doctors, nurses,
yeah.
staff, ward boys, everyone. I mean, they are putting their life on the line for just to keep people safe. So even at least if not for their own sake, for the sake of doctors and nurses and ward boys and everyone associated with medical profession, people should start displaying a sense of responsibility. It's time they do. Otherwise, as you rightly said, no matter how much scaling up we do, we can keep blaming governments for everything, but things won't improve unless and until there's a change in mindset, which is a very important thing.
Very important. First and foremost
No,
things to do, yeah, is change your mindset.
yeah, that's true. And now we were talking about how serious is the shortage of vaccine that is playing out in the public domain. I know in our country, see, politics is one thing, you can't take it away from anything in this country. So a lot of politics is also being played on that. I don't want you to comment on that, but is there really a shortage of vaccines in our country right now?
Yeah, I'm not the right person to answer that. I'm a doctor. If vaccines are there or not there, I'm not the one who will be knowing this. To be very honest, yeah,
I appreciate
this
that.
is more of a government person should answer that if there's a shortage or not. I don't know if there's a shortage or not, even if there's a shortage or not.
Because during the course of this
This
conversation, yes, please go ahead. You were saying something.
this again media doing some fantasies or actual there is a shortage of vaccine, nobody knows right now.
Okay, I take that. Now, during the course of this conversation, since we were having this conversation, I was told by my team, I was just been informed that government has announced some time back that all above 18 are eligible for vaccination from 1st of May. So if there
Okay,
is the
great.
confidence with which the government is taking decision, then definitely that
There's
all the
no shortage of
vaccine
vaccine.
shortage, no shortage, because if
No shortage of vaccine.
18 above, everyone will be eligible for vaccination. That itself is a big statement, isn't it? That there's no shortage.
Means 70, 80 crore people are eligible for vaccine now.
Eligible for vaccines. Yeah. So from first
70, 80 crore. That's
means
not a small number.
yeah, and that's just like a fortnight away, just 2 weeks. Today we are on 19.
2 weeks from now.
So about 10, 11 days more, and then everyone will get at least they're eligible for vaccination. That's
Eligible for vaccine.
so that means that the government has definitely done their homework, and
So I think that answers your question more than more than I could have
but
answered.
the overriding the message from your side, your final message to all the Indians out there, not just India, across the world. What will you tell them as a doctor in this fight against 19?
First of all, follow all basic sanitization or mask protocol. For mild disease, do not panic. Don't block hospitals. You can stay at home, get better. Keep in touch with your doctor. That's all you need to do. Let the hospital be for patients requiring oxygen or severe illness. And we do need to change our mindset. We can't keep on blaming others for all these problems. We need to take responsibility, become a better citizen, and behave responsibly.
Dr. Amitabh Banka, thank you so much for sparing your time and sharing such valuable insights. I'm sure a lot of viewers out there would be so enlightened to know the real situation and the simple things that you have mentioned that will help us, see through this corona crisis. So once again, from the team Middle Class Hub, I thank you for your time and appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Alan. Thank you.